This world is not just filled with dungeons and secret realms, but also with demonic monsters roaming the wilds. Therefore, a system of class-based professionals was established, allowing people to undergo a class change by conquering dungeons and slaying monsters. By accumulating enough knowledge and experience, they can level up their skills to avoid becoming has-beens, and enhance their personal power. Naturally, in a world teeming with monsters, the most common classes are combat-oriented. As a combat-focused, followed by support and life skill classes, combat and support classes are divided into 5 ranks: low, middle, Gimel, high, rare, and finally legendary. Lin Mo Yu, a student at West C. First High School, knows that for the past 10 years, no one in this city has achieved the legendary rank. Lu Yun, the school's principal, is giving a speech to the students about today's class change ceremony. He hopes his students will follow the example of the academic prodigy Su Tianxing, a youth idol. He's a level 80 divine mage. That blonde-haired guy with the middle part is Gao Yang, Lin Mo Yu's classmate. He believes that with Mo Yu's top academic record, he's guaranteed to land a powerful and rare class. However, the students who go through the ceremony are all getting weak life skill classes, leaving old Tian quite disappointed in this new generation. But the next one up is Xia Shui, the school's number 2 student. The moment she approaches, old Tian's eyes widen in anticipation. He can see this girl's potential is no joke. Sure enough, just as he suspected when Xia Shui steps into the formation, a strange phenomenon occurs, and she awakens as a rare rank combat class and elemental mage. Her friends immediately begin to praise her talent, while gossiping that Mo Yu will surely be overshadowed this time. Mo Yu, with his hands in his pockets, confidently steps forward. Old Tian watches him, thinking he's just putting on a brave face. He assumes the boy is a sea of tears on the inside with nothing to back up his swagger, but the principal defends Mo Yu. After all, he is the school's number 1 student. Not wanting to disappoint the teacher who spoke so highly of him, he steps into the array and the sky immediately darkens with thunderclouds. As lightning flashes, skeletons materialize in the sky, panicking the other students. Ultimately, he awakens. He becomes a necromancer, a unique hidden class in this world that only he can possess unless he dies. By that logic, this class is even rarer than legendary. Seeing this, everyone erupts into a flurry of discussion. Their whispers are full of slander, not praise, but rampant jealousy and envy. Old Tian, seeing this strange class, is intrigued. He wants Mo Yu to give a small demonstration, so Mo Yu immediately summons a black iron rank skeleton warrior. These skeletons have multiple ranks such as bronze, gold, diamond, legendary, and the ultimate god rank. Old Tian hits it with a single blow, causing it to lose control and try to engage him in a fight to the death. Fortunately, Mo Yu knows his limits and stops it, since the old man is a well-known powerhouse in the hunter system. During his awakening, he also witnessed a magnificent vision of a powerful necromancer battling a colossal dragon all alone, and slaying it in an instant. He vowed to himself that one day he would become just as overwhelmingly powerful a master of solo leveling his own path. Meanwhile, Gao Yang also completed his class change, getting his desired job of Sword Knight, a high-rank class. Tomorrow, West Sea City will open the beginner's dungeon for the newly awakened students to start grinding levels, and Xia Shui is eager for a match, determined to pass the assessment even more than Mo Yu. Back home, Mo Yu looked at a family photo, remembered his grandmother, and then told himself he would get into Xiajing Academy to study with his older sister. The principal knocked on Mo Yu's door, giving him some daily necessities because he had previously promised his sister he would look after him. That night, Mo Yu suddenly gained a new talent and a passive skill, making his already strong skeleton warriors at least 5 times more powerful. The next day at the rookie leveling dungeon, Mo Yu wanted to do some solo leveling, despite his 2-toned hair friend pestering him to form a team. Xie Shui also planned to go solo just like him, and the two were given special permission by the principal to enter combat alone because their classes were very powerful. However, he also added that in the future, they would face many temptations and high-level monsters, and that forming teams for mutual support was essential. But for now, they should just go all out. Xia Shui wanted to get into Xiajing Academy, and so did Mo Yu. This made the principal look quite grim. He said getting in was very difficult. Applicants needed to be level 12 or higher, and for a guaranteed spot, they had to reach level 15. Mo Yu's older sister Mo Han was previously the only person from this city to be accepted into Xiajing. At level 16, exceeding the requirement, he rambled on about how reaching high levels was nearly impossible, but Mo Yu always had faith that he could do it. Before entering the dungeon, Xia Shui issued a challenge about who could level up faster, and she thought she would level up faster than Mo Yu. His silence was taken as acceptance of the challenge. Yu entered the dungeon and as a necromancer summoned his horde of skeletons. And they easily defeated the low-level monsters there. In just half an hour, he had leveled up to 2 and his skeletons did as well. Their stats increased and the number of warriors he could summon also rose to 8. Every move of the skeleton horde Yu could track on the map. A small monster was lurking nearby, so he readily used his active skill Soul Flame to eliminate it. Time passed and Yu casually continued to level up, non-stop with his skeleton army. The rookie dungeon lasted for 12 hours, and after only 4 hours, Yu's level was already 6. If he kept up this hard work, he would likely surpass the goal and reach level 8. Outside, the principal was talking with Patriarch Xia Dong, young of the Xia family, Xia Shui's father, about his daughter and also discussing Yu's hidden class. Inside the dungeon, Yu, after clearing out all monsters of the same level, ventured deeper inside. He stood before a divine tree where a level 8 monster resided. He thought it would be strong, but it turned out to be just average, so he and his little skeleton minions completely wrecked the forest. His experience points shot up significantly. With only 10 hours past, he proudly became the first person to exit the dungeon. The onlookers thought something must have gone wrong for the gate to open 2 hours early like that. When asked why he was out, Yu, with a stone-cold face, said he killed everything, so he came out. What else was he supposed to do in there? His casual yet extraordinary answer left everyone completely stunned. He asked the principal for permission to go to the outskirts of West Sea City the next day to continue leveling up and meet his deadline. His strength had been clearly proven through the hunter system, so the principal happily agreed. Xia Shui then timidly stepped out with the achievement of reaching level 5 right on her initial deadline. She walked out looking triumphant, thinking she was all that, and a bag of chips. Then she blankly looked over and saw Yu, who had been sitting outside for a while, was already level 7. This caused her hopes to be dashed in an instant. Losing hope, her father came to take her home, offering his help, but she wanted to be self-sufficient, refusing to rely on her family's wealthy background. When her father told her how he had single-handedly cleared the entire dungeon, she was completely shocked as Yu walked out. Seeing that his every man for himself best friend had already reached level 7, he immediately wanted to carry, begging to go level up with him. A deal was struck, and the next morning he was waiting at the gate for Yu, only to learn from the principal that his best friend had already gone out to the suburbs to level up alone again. Yu went to the Divine Empire's exchange to find a suitable quest within the hunter system that offered a hefty reward. After looking through a series of high-difficulty quests, he knew his own limits and decided not to take on more than he could handle. Yu approached the knight guarding the gate, who was quite surprised that the academy would let a mere level 7 hunter go out on his own. He offered Yu a lot of advice, repeatedly emphasizing that survival was the top priority. Outside the city walls, what Yu faced was not a titan, but a goblin with a sparkling earring. It looked very fancy, and although it was level 10, it was completely insignificant against Yu's level 7 skeleton, a testament to his power as a necromancer. A whole swarm of goblins then appeared in unison, and this would become the XP farm Yu had been hoping for, a classic solo leveling grind. He estimated he could reach a maximum of level 15, but he was puzzled, wondering how his lovely and gentle sister had somehow managed to reach level 16. After grinding for a while, he finally reached level 10. His powers underwent a major transformation, and his skeleton warrior also reached the bronze rank. It now had much stronger stats and could even use its own skills, a rare feat for a low-level necromancer. As he was cautiously looking for more monsters, he suddenly remembered that he had cleared out all the monsters in this area when an arrow of resentment suddenly struck him. An assassin-class girl hurriedly rushed past Yu, followed immediately by an archer and a mage. They asked him about the girl who had just run by, but Yu couldn't care less and told them to apologize for accidentally shooting him. The archer sensed Yu's powerful aura and wisely apologized as requested, but the blonde-haired guy was incredibly arrogant. Seeing Yu's immortal skeleton warrior, he claimed that only someone who committed a heinous crime could be granted such a wicked class from the hunter system. The archer quickly shut his foul mouth, advising him to swallow his pride for once. Fortunately, the arrogant one also sensed something was off and quietly left, because if his ego had gotten the better of him, Yu was ready to throw hands. After reaching level 10, even killing countless monsters barely made a dent in Yu's experience bar. To achieve a position no one else can, you must endure the pressure no one else can bear. The sky had already grown dark, so he decided to stay in the forest for the night and figure out a way to survive and level up. After thinking for a long time, he remembered a place he had overlooked, the West Sea Mine Dungeon, a prime spot for some solo leveling. He figured his sister must have entered the Nightmare difficulty dungeon with a party, which would explain why she came back covered in injuries. As he was lost in thought, the girl from earlier approached and asked Mo Yu for some food, and seeing her rather pathetic state, he shared a sweet potato with her. She happily pulled down her mask and began to eat ravenously, almost choking, and once she was full, she tried to strike up a conversation with Mo Yu. But he was a man of few words and said nothing, so she came up with an idea to use her probe skill to check out his profile. As their hands touched, a light flashed in the silent night, and all of Mo Yu's personal information was revealed to the girl. He understood it perfectly clearly, but strangely he couldn't use his inspect skill on this girl. After Mo Yu asked her about it, it revealed the reason he couldn't scan her profile was because of a blocking medallion she possessed. After she unequipped it, Mo Yu was finally able to check her stats. Her name was Ning Yi, an assassin class, and she was level 19. The two scoundrels from the morning had gathered more cronies, forming a trio of punks, and came looking for her, wanting to take the intermediate. At skill scroll from Yi, she immediately tried to leave to avoid involving Mo Yu, but before she could hide, the archer shot a tracking arrow at her. It had the ability to prevent its target from using stealth and marked their location. One of them said that a cowardly assassin who runs like a rat, paired with a shady and deceitful undead summoner, a necromancer, was actually a perfect match. Yi tried her best to protect Mo Yu and offered to return the intermediate skill scroll to them so that they would leave them alone. The guy with the ridiculous hairstyle said they would have let it go before, but now that she was being annoying, they wanted to send her into the afterlife just to be safe. Hearing this, Yi wanted to lure them away, worried for Mo Yu's safety. Yes, since he was only level 10. She confidently claimed to be a shadow assassin, so when night fell, it would be her show. Mo Yu knew all too well that if she were that strong, she wouldn't have been scrambling for her life that morning. Especially now that she couldn't even use her stealth ability. The three punks began to use their ultimate skills to eliminate both of them. Seeing the injustice of the strong ganging up on the weak, Mo Yu summoned his skeleton warriors. Yi grabbed his hand. Ata run since their opponent's skills were all around level 20, but her leg had been snared by the archer's shot. While hanging by a thread, just when she thought she was taking a trip to the underworld, all the attacks were blocked by the skeleton. Warriors. Yi was shocked that they, being only level 10, could stand against level 20 skills like that. And what's more, this necromancer Mo Yu could now summon 100 of them, an army reminiscent of solo leveling, a legion of skeleton soldiers standing around them, ready to launch an all-out assault on those cocky punks. The blonde-haired guy opened a magic circle that looked quite impressive and all that, but it wasn't enough to protect him from the ferocious assault of the skeleton. The warriors. His shield broke and he started using fire magic to surround himself and push the skeleton warriors back, thinking it was over. He got a smug look on his face, but not so fast, buddy. These warriors were all undead type. Two skeleton warriors immediately launched a direct attack, tearing the guy's body into 3 pieces, even more badass than Gojo. On another front, there was a guy using elusive footwork with 1,500 agility, but that still wasn't enough to escape the skeleton warriors. Another guy had to activate his ultimate defense and was arrogantly attacking. This skill could withstand the blow of a level 40 mage due to its high defense, but against the attack power of the skeleton warriors, this guy's face also turned pale, wishing he could get a do-over. Mo Yu activated the berserk skill for his skeleton warriors. They immediately lost control, gaining a massive boost to their critical hit rate and dealing 200% damage to the target. One man against a horde. Xia is bound to get wrecked. Just like that, after 1 minute, his shield shattered. 30 or 40 skeleton brothers were waiting outside, and immediately, Bao surrounded him, sending him to a world of hurt. Mo Yu lives and works by his sister's motto, either don't cause trouble or, if you're going to make a scene, you might as well go all out. In a flash, Mo Yu annihilated the entire mob of low-level minions without even needing to lift a finger, leaving Yi in a state of utter shock. After finishing them off, he also collected a lot of good items, including a beginner skill scroll. This scroll was worth a whole 10,000 gold coins, yet Yi claimed that junk wouldn't sell for much. Hearing those words, Mo Yu immediately realized her background was anything but ordinary. She was probably from a major power. These skill scrolls could grant a player a skill they already possessed, but with luck there was a chance of getting a brand new one. After being playfully tricked into thinking he had to shout the skill's name to learn it, Mo Yu realized he actually needed to infuse it with his spiritual power. Mo Yu then learned a new skill, Corpse Explosion, a classic ability for any powerful Necromancer. At first glance, the skill seemed quite weak, but when combined with Mo Yu's unique talent, its effective range expanded to 10 meters. It was a truly decent area of effect skill. When one corpse explodes, it can trigger a chain reaction with other bodies dealing continuous damage to surrounding enemies. Thanks to his ridiculously overpowered talent, it felt like even the weakest skills could be transformed into god-tier abilities in his hands. After learning the skill, Mo Yu looked at Yi and complimented her lovely voice. She, of course, already knew this and smiled with satisfaction. As they say, a woman is most dangerous when she knows she's beautiful and cute. But being praised by a handsome guy, the young lady generously gifted Mo Yu an intermediate skill scroll. It was an extremely valuable scroll, usable from level 40 to 70, and its value was 100 times that of a beginner scroll. She recounted how she obtained the intermediate scroll through a stroke of pure luck, blessed by her ancestors, but then some wretched scoundrels appeared to snatch it away. That's why she had to flee. She lamented running for 7 days and 7 nights, yet they still chased her more relentlessly than a deadline. Yi also revealed that the world's hunter system prevents her from actually dying. If she takes a fatal hit, she is automatically teleported to safety. Even so, she thanked Mo Yu because while she wouldn't die, she would still get hurt. And a beautiful woman like her hates getting hurt, she only wants to be cherished. When Mo Yu shared that he was taking the entrance exam for Xiajing, Yi told him he should visit their divine tower of Xia. The first challenge attempt grants double rewards, and the higher you climb, the more lavish the prizes become, much like the dungeons in solo leveling. Furthermore, in Xiajing Prefecture, accumulated points are even more useful than gold coins. After chatting her heart out, Yi finally dozed off. The next morning, waking from her dream, the feisty young lady asked for all the sweet potatoes Mo Yu had. After they finished talking, she left to level up, bidding him farewell and hoping he would carry her in a party next time they met. Left alone, Mo Yu immediately used Corpse Explosion. The destructive power was immense, and now it was time to see just how effective it truly was. He decided to head to the West Sea Mine to completely dominate the instance. His summons had ranked up from Black Iron to Bronze. Now it cost 70 spirit points to summon a single one, and since he only had 300 points, Mo Yu could only summon a maximum of 4. He would have to build his army one step at a time. After some travel, he arrived at the crowded entrance to the dungeon. Heroes from all corners of the land were there recruiting teammates to take on the instance. The dungeon was divided into 2 difficulty levels, Normal and Nightmare. For Normal, you just needed a tank and a healer, but for Nightmare, you needed at least 5 people with a maxed out, well-rounded party. When the people there saw that Mo Yu was a summoner, they were intrigued. People tried to claim a connection, all wanting to conquer the virtual world with him, but Mo Yu entered the Nightmare dungeon alone to the utter astonishment of everyone present. They all thought he was being too arrogant, and since they couldn't view his personal information, they just assumed he was a nobody with a flashy appearance looking for a cheap thrill. Mo Yu was now inside the West Sea Mine dungeon, where the attributes of the goblins were quite high, but they were still nothing compared to Mo Yu's skeleton warriors. After killing just one monster in here, the experience gained was 10 times that of a monster outside, and each kill only took 1 to 2 seconds. Mo Yu smirked as he observed, deciding to hunt down every last one without missing a single corner. In just 5 minutes, he easily leveled up to 11. After level 10, his basic attributes also saw a greater increase along with an additional 100 mana points. The Skeleton Warrior's combat power also increased significantly thanks to Mo Yu's talent. Only his Corpse Explosion skill was still at level 1. He immediately thought of Yi, certain she would know about this. After rampaging through the entire mine, Mo Yu finally met the Wolf King, the boss of this area. Although its stats were quite high, it was unfortunately alone, whereas Mo Yu, a powerful necromancer, had a whole brotherhood of skeletons. Even though it used its howl skill, the skeleton warriors easily charged in to attack. When it could no longer withstand the relentless assault, it turned tail and fled. As the alpha wolf ran, a whole pack of lesser wolves from the mine also began to appear. While they weren't strong, they overwhelmed with sheer numbers. If a normal party came in here, their chances of survival would be slim to none. But Mo Yu had an ace up his sleeve, Corpse Explosion. As his talent leveled up, this skill could now detonate with 100% of the wolves' maximum health. After wiping out the entire pack, only the alpha wolf remained. With Mo Yu, all beings are equal, so he gave this wolf a taste of bitter defeat too. Despite being a boss, the amount of experience it dropped was not what he had hoped for. However, it did drop many valuable rare items. Following the path, Mo Yu went to find the final boss of this place. At this pace of 1 level per hour, a true feat of solo leveling, he could likely reach level 18 or even 19. The boss of this place was a giant goblin at level 16 with strength and combat power far exceeding the ones outside. With just a single slash, it could easily destroy 2 of Moyu's skeleton warriors. Through this, he understood that his own attributes were too low, leading to weak defense for his summons. He vowed to himself to train diligently and not just sit back and reap the rewards so easily anymore. His current skeleton warriors couldn't withstand a single direct attack from that goblin. However, the thing was, he didn't just have one, he had an entire legion of skeletons. When surrounded and attacked by the whole army of skeleton warriors, the giant goblin leaped high into the air and then crashed down using its ultimate skill, Shockwave, to cause a massive tremor. Riding the wave of excitement, it even opened its mouth and spewed fire. Seizing the moment to interrupt its power trip, Moyu used Soul Flame and combined it with the furious assault of his skeleton warriors, finally succeeding in defeating it. After defeating the final boss, he also received many precious items with high trade value. Among them was a magic artifact of knowledge that slightly increased his own stats. Once everything was settled, Moyu teleported outside to the astonishment of everyone there. Seeing him equipped with the magic artifact of knowledge, they immediately knew that he alone had cleared that dungeon. The previous whispers of gossip now turned into admiration for the talent of this young man, a true master of the hunter system. This leveling session helped Moyu realize many of his own shortcomings, but the corpse explosion skill is incredibly effective. It's an unparalleled area of effect attack skill. Soul Flame not only has the ability to interrupt enemy skills, but its mental attack is also extremely powerful. Even a nightmare-level boss could hardly withstand this flame of resentment. After 12 hours of rest had passed, his mental power was almost completely restored and he could summon 4 more skeleton soldiers. At the dungeon entrance, a guild called the Azure Tide was standing guard for their master's quest, preventing anyone from entering. They would kill anyone who stubbornly tried to enter without a second thought. After killing someone, they would even arrogantly taunt the onlookers. They showed no fear of facing karma for their actions. Seeing this, Moyu approached to ask what was going on. A bystander explained that the guildmaster was searching for an elf crystal, which is an extremely rare item. It has a very low drop rate. Moreover, the core of the Elf King can be crafted by an alchemist into the Elf King's ring. When equipped, it raises all skill levels by 1, making it the most powerful accessory below level 40. This guild had already prepared all the other materials and was only missing the core, the very item Moyu now possessed. After getting the story, Moyu casually walked towards the dungeon entrance, intending to level up a classic move in any hunter system. The crowd warned him that this guild wasn't bluffing. Upon inspecting Moyu and seeing he was only level 12, the level 25, Mage scoffed. He arrogantly moved to kill him quickly, casting an energy shield, but after just a few direct hits from the skeleton warriors, the flimsy shield shattered. Fortunately, he anticipated this and managed to escape in time. Realizing he was outmatched, he fell back and ordered the 30 or 40 men behind him to swarm the enemy. A knight charged forward but was completely no match for the skeleton warrior's strength. Feeling that fighting the skeletons was hopeless, the mage ordered his archers to kill the summoner. A volley of vengeful arrows flew towards Moyu, but this powerful necromancer didn't just have one skeleton. The mage then unleashed a rare ultimate skill, Raging Fire Serpent Dance, a spell that only 1/3 of mages above the 2nd class could ever learn. A terrifying inferno engulfed the area, but it did nothing to Moyu's skeleton army, a feat worthy of solo leveling. The orange-haired guild member began to form a battle line, smugly boasting that their Azure Tide guild was invincible. Moyu warned the onlookers to get back, then unleashed Soul Flame directly on the enemy healer. A single strike was enough to send that player to his grave. Even the tank's ultimate defense was useless against the terrifying power of the skeleton warriors. One by one, the guild members were incinerated by Moyu's Soul Flame. Sensing a breach in their formation, the team leader yelled for everyone to run, screaming that the necromancer before them was a monster. But there was no escape. Not when Moyu still had his corpse explosion skill. Its effective radius now increased to 10 meters, and just like that, every member of the Azure Tide Guild present was annihilated by Moyu, leaving not a single trace. Half an hour later, the guildmaster inside emerged. He immediately sensed something was wrong when he found that all his guild members had disappeared without a trace. Sensing a lurking danger, he ordered his remaining subordinates to leave immediately. An hour later, inside the dungeon, Moyu had finished the final boss and swiftly reached level 12. As expected, another core didn't drop for him, but instead, he received the Goblin King's Grimoire. It could increase skill power by 3% and was a perfect match for the 2 main active skills of a necromancer. The skills he possessed were Soul Flame and Corpse Explosion. After clearing the dungeon multiple times, Moyu had also leveled up to 13, Now he just had to wait for the dungeon to reset, and he would continue to grind again and again, just like in a hunter system game. Following this routine, the maximum level Mo Yu could reach was 16. Although that felt a little low to him, it was enough to pass the entrance exam for the Xiaojing Academy. The next day, Xia Shui finally reached level 10 and came to this dungeon, seeing that Mo Yu could clear the dungeon with ease. All by himself, a true solo leveling feat, she promised herself she would do her best not to fall behind him. Inside, after leveling up and meditating to recover his mental energy, Mo Yu's necromancer army of skeletons had grown to 72 soldiers. He continued to fight the boss, Hitch, which was clearly annoyed that as soon as it respawned, this guy was back to torture it again. While he was sitting outside recovering, Xia Shui came out. She asked and was shocked to learn he had already reached level 14. Just like that, as soon as she got out, she immediately went to find a party to quickly and level up and keep pace with her peers. After many dungeon runs, she also advanced to level 12, seeing his schoolmates struggling so hard. To catch up to him, Mo Yu uncharacteristically offered some advice, telling her she should be clearing the nightmare difficulty dungeon. Xie Shui already knew this and laughed at him, saying, "So it turns out even the top student doesn't know everything and can't keep up with the trends of the youth." She then showed off an item. She had a beginner cooldown amulet, seeing her struggle to level up but not being very effective, and since he could use the cooldown amulet, Mo Yu suggested they share it. In return, he would carry her through the dungeon on nightmare difficulty without her having to lift a finger. Clearing dungeons as a duo within the hunter system would grant an XP boost, and besides, there were only a few days left until the Xiaojing Academy's entrance exams, so Xia Shui agreed to Mo Yu's terms. He told her to rest for 2 hours to recover her mental energy, and then they would go clear the dungeon together. When she saw him choose the nightmare difficulty, it made Xia Shu very surprised, thinking he must have selected it by mistake. On top of that, once they were inside, he completely ignored all the mobs and went straight for the boss, and with just one use of his corpse explosion skill, the necromancer Mo Yu cleared the entire area without breaking a sweat, only by hearing about it and then seeing it firsthand. Did Xia Shui finally believe that a player in the teens could perform a solo leveling clear of a nightmare dungeon, and in just a mere 10 minutes, Mo Yu had already led Xia Shui to the final boss, a stark contrast to her previous runs with a normal party that took over an hour. Just to reach this point, the final boss was then easily defeated by Mo Yu, and he proceeded to level up to 15. This was a world away from Xia Shui, who was hopelessly trying to keep up. The boss dropped a magic staff, an excellent treasure for mages under level 20. She could have bought one on the auction house, but didn't want to ask her dad for money. Hearing this, Mo Yu generously gifted it to her since he now had nothing but money. Thanks to Xia Shui's cooldown item, Mo Yu's dungeon clearing speed had increased quite significantly. Every time he killed the boss, he would walk over and apologize to it, which left Xia Shui very confused. She thought he was really weird, but also, she had a very cute side to him. After clearing the dungeon together 5 times, Xia Shui had also reached level 12 while Mo Yu was already at 80% of his experience bar. For level 15. She asked that dummy Mo Yu if he wanted to become the top scorer for the Xiaojing exam, because doing so would grant a lot of training points. Most importantly, it would grant him a chance to enter the Divine Light Academy. That was where the most powerful talents in the entire Divine Xia Empire gathered. If the students recruited by Xiaojing Academy were considered elite prodigies, then the students of the Divine Light Academy were figures. According to Xia Shui, the top prodigy Su Qianxing was also the first from West Sea City to join. That's why Muj wanted to try his luck too. After all, he was now guaranteed a spot at Xiaojing Academy, and far off in the distance was his friend Gao Yang. As a knight who had only just reached level 11, no parties wanted to recruit him, so Muj asked for Xia Shui's opinion. He wanted to recruit the boy to clear dungeons with them, and meanwhile at the Dynasty Guild, the Guildmaster's father had also heard the news. He had already sent people to investigate the one responsible for making so many of their guild members disappear without a trace. When Gao Yang was invited to the leveling party, he was ecstatic and grateful, since the academy he wanted to join only required him to reach a certain level. Level 12 was just enough, and Gao Yang's constant teasing of Xia Shui infuriated her, so during the wait for the two of them to recover, on over 10 hours, he took the chance to grind some mobs for experience points, and after 10 hours passed, Gao Yang regrouped with everyone. He was led into a nightmare difficulty dungeon which left him completely stunned and bewildered as he witnessed a destructive power that seemed like a hack. Muj's overwhelming strength, reminiscent of a true solo leveling protagonist, left Gao Yang speechless, but Xia Shui just told him to get used to it. Seeing how overpowered Muj was, he immediately dropped to his knees and hugged his leg, begging to be carried, and Xia Shui told him to maintain the dignity of a knight. But in this day and age, what good is pride when it can't feed you? Muj agreed to carry him one more time, since on the next run he would also level up. He would advance to level 16, Xia Shui to 15, and Gao Yang would finally hit level 12. After that, all they had to do was wait for the official exam to begin. The principal and 2 teachers were waiting for their students to return. They were incredibly proud and placed high hopes on Xia Shui and Lin Muge. As students returned at levels 12 and 13, the teachers were very pleased, and finally Muj's party returned. When they saw he had reached level 16, all 3 of them were shocked by his incredible speed, and as everyone headed back, the principal proudly thought to himself, now he could finally flex on those other old-timers. Early the next morning, everyone gathered at school to receive their teleportation stones. By pouring their mana into the stones, they could travel to the exam site, and Muj teleported to the location in Jiangning province where the number of candidates was staggering. The number of examinees there was estimated to be over 10,000, and as the trial tower opened, anyone caught chattering was instantly disqualified. The tower arranged different scenarios for each class within the hunter system, with combat-oriented classes being assigned combat-focused trials. Support classes were given non-combat arrangements, and after passing the basic trials, each profession would receive the right to choose a difficulty. Different difficulties and achievements would result in different point totals, and furthermore, there were other rules to follow. Personal equipment was allowed, but the use of any consumable items was strictly forbidden, and spatial storage would also be sealed. Anyone violating these rules would be disqualified immediately, so everyone then began to line up and enter the tower. In Jiangning province alone, a massive number of top-tier candidates had gathered, and the leading figures from the academies were also standing above to observe. They had high expectations for the world's only necromancer who hailed from West Sea City, so they decided to set the trial monsters for him at a higher level. The monsters were set to be 2 levels higher, but Muj didn't even need to summon his minions. Just by using his active skill, Corpse Flame, he easily defeated the first monster in 0.1 seconds. In the trial tower's monitoring room, a certain Elder Ning Asta, a man of considerable influence, had come to observe the new necromancer class, and seeing how ridiculously overpowered he was, the elder made a proposal for the second trial. He suggested they increase the difficulty to legendary tier, and if the boy passed, Elder Ning would personally grant him a special reward. He alone earned 1,000 points per monster. A level 20 wolf monster appeared before Mo Yu, but just like before Mo Yu, a peerless necromancer one-shotted the legendary grade monster. And so the first test concluded with a total of 10,032 candidates participating. However, only 5,220 met the standard. All the candidates were shocked by the monster being killed in 0.1 seconds, which seemed utterly absurd. Absurd yet incredibly convincing. In the second round, candidates could freely choose their difficulty. Wang Zihao, a level 16 berserker, was determined to take first place in this competition, so he immediately chose Hell difficulty. Xia Shui, knowing her own limits, opted for quantity over quality, so she chose the normal difficulty. As for the assassin Zuo Mei, her close combat was so strong that choosing either Nightmare or Hell would be fine for her. The examiners analyzed with all their might, but still couldn't predict which difficulty Mo Yu, the mysterious necromancer, would choose. Of course, he knew this was an endurance test to see who could last for 30 minutes, but his massive ego told him he had to choose Hell mode. Upon entering the dungeon, Mo Yu was stunned because it was too weak, not even enough for his bone minions to pick their teeth with. All the examiners were wide-eyed and jaw-dropped when they saw how powerful Mo Yu's summon was, a true display of the hunter system's potential. Meanwhile, Wang Zihao and Xia Shui were struggling to survive while Mo Yu just sat back and chilled. The second round also ended with 2,780 candidates injured or voluntarily quitting. The rankings were then announced, and Lin Mo Yu was still leagues ahead on a path of solo leveling that left the rest of the competition in the dust. Principal Lu, watching from the outside, also gained a good reputation from the public as Mo Yu was so terrifyingly powerful. He was even more impressive than the 2 previous top students in the school's history, Lin Hanting and Lin Mohan. In the third round, the candidates would face a boss-level monster one-on-one, and Mo Yu still confidently chose the hardest difficulty right away. When he entered, it looked cool, but it wasn't even as strong as an elite-grade monster from the demon-level dungeon in the West Sea Mines that Mo Yu had cleared. Mo Yu was quite disappointed that the test was too easy and hoped the next two tests would be genuinely challenging. Mo Yu took the examiners from one surprise to another when his summon, a product of his unique necromancer class, not only proved powerful but also possessed skills and one-shotted the boss. Looking at the rankings, Mo Yu was also very surprised that his talkative friend Gao Yang was also trying hard and had made it into the top 670. In the fourth round, each person would have to face 10 waves of monster attacks with the number of monsters per wave being 10 for a total of 100 monsters. A new wave would appear every 1 minute regardless of whether the candidate had defeated the previous one. Each wave of monsters also included a leader boss. The observing examiners thought that this time it would finally fluster the summoner, but Old Ning thought it still wouldn't be enough to faze him, as if he was watching a real-life solo-leveling protagonist. Mo Yu began summoning his skeleton warriors to let them stretch their bones. Against this mob of small fry, Mo Yu only needed 3 skeleton warriors to handle the fight, along with his active skill Soul Flame, which annihilated the boss in the blink of an eye. The fact that he had a third summon greatly surprised the examiners, who realized he was still holding back a common tactic in the competitive hunter system. The examiners grew bored watching Mo Yu compete. He was also bored because the bosses were so ridiculously weak, not enough for him to go all out. Meanwhile, candidates in other dungeons had to strain with every fiber of their being just to survive. Gao Yang, watching from the outside, couldn't stop hyping up his best friend. The competition was now down to only 5 people who could still stand. The other person was named Feng Shu. He was a level 15 sword saint who finally decided to reveal his full power to score the most points. Since Prince Hao already knew all the tricks of the competition, he didn't hold back and decided to activate his berserk mode right from the very beginning, to rack up points while Mo Yu remained completely at ease as if his soul was drifting in the wind. The final wave of monsters finally arrived and everyone used all their strength to pass this fourth round. After completing the test, everyone was disheveled and covered in wounds. As for Mo Yu, well, let's not even talk about him. Those 4 rounds were just a warm-up, and now even after making it into the top 5, if they fail this round, it's a one-way ticket home. This time the contestants would be teleported to the main combat space. There it would spawn all sorts of monsters in absolutely colossal numbers, including many terrifying beasts. The faster you kill them, the faster new monsters will spawn, and the respawn rate will also increase rapidly. In total, there are 5 stages for the contestants to survive. And farm points. After entering the combat space, the judges could only see the scores changing, but were unable to view the contestants' actions within. The stages would successively increase the monster count, starting from 50 and reaching a final mark of 800. Mo Yu teleported in and immediately felt the place was filled with the energy of death, just like a real battlefield. The moment they saw Mo Yu, these monsters roared, calling their pack, but for his skeletons it was nothing to worry about. If one slash didn't kill them, a second one would. After killing them, Mo Yu, the powerful necromancer, immediately used Corpse Explosion. Just like that, his score skyrocketed, leaving the judges completely bewildered. Mo Yu summoned 9 skeletons to pull the monsters into one spot and then detonated them all at once, causing his score to jump by the thousands. In an instant, ranged monsters in the distance also began to attack, but his skeleton warriors blocked all their attacks. Now it was Mo Yu's turn to show them who was the king of this domain. Despite the immense number of monsters, Mo Yu remained ice-cold, reminiscent of the protagonist from Solo Leveling, without even breaking a sweat. He ordered his skeleton legion to charge and engage the horde of lesser demons in close combat. After a short exchange, he used Corpse Explosion to detonate them all. He wiped them out in the blink of an eye, collecting 6,000 points and leaving the judges outside still completely baffled as to what on earth he was doing. Some even thought this ridiculously overpowered class might have already surpassed the legendary tier. The next stage was about to begin. It started with at least 40 squads of beastmen scattered around. The level and quantity of monsters simultaneously increased exponentially, but Mo Yu told himself that this trivial challenge couldn't possibly stop him. In the entire history of the Divine Xia Empire's competitions, only one job class holder had ever managed to pass the 3rd stage of the That was over 100 years ago, but with Mo Yu's unreal combat abilities, they believed he actually had a chance to surpass it. Due to his incredible power, everyone assumed he must have awakened a special talent within his hunter system right after his job change. If he undergoes a second job change, he'll gain yet another new talent. He was already a genius, and now it seemed the stars had perfectly aligned for him. At this point, Mo Yu's total score was double that of the other contestants on the leaderboard at the Trial Tower. Meanwhile, at one of the 3 great divine towers of the Xia Empire, a sinister light shot straight inside. Although someone detected and tried to block it, they couldn't match its speed. The target of that monstrous energy was the contestants currently participating in the trial. The order within the trial grounds would be disrupted by this unauthorized intrusion. Outside Bai Yi Yuan, the top powerhouse of the divine Xia Empire, was working with the other elders to find a way to restore order. Inside the tower, all the monsters suddenly vanished at once. Xiaxu and the other contestants were teleported to the same location as Mo Yu. Bai Chen then used his afterimage to deliver a message to everyone inside. Demons from the Abyss world have invaded the combat space. The people outside are trying to repair and restore the rules of this dimension. It's expected to be completed within 1 hour, so he hopes. The contestants here will team up to protect each other since there's no telling what tricks these monsters might pull. Mo Yu immediately thought that if Bai Chen said the contestants here could defeat these monsters together, it must mean their levels have been suppressed. The judges are also trying to rally everyone's morale, telling them to remain calm and not panic because Bai Chen is on the case. The blood moon of the abyss began to appear, and the monsters could even speak and threaten the contestants. Though they were capped at level 19, they were all elite-grade monsters. While others were scared, Mo Yu was already contemplating whether these mobs would grant him experience for some solo leveling style grinding. The blonde-haired guy was all talk at first, but seeing how powerful the monsters were, he froze up and couldn't even lift his sword. He could only watch on helplessly while the other contestants took their battle stances. Mo Yu, with his hands in his pockets, nonchalantly strode towards the horde of monsters ready for a real fight. The remaining people there shouted a battle cry, "We are not afraid to fight, not afraid to die," then followed in Mo Yu's footsteps. One of the monsters even invited Mo Yu to join the Abyss world, saying it would be a waste to kill someone with his courage. Mo Yu, a skilled necromancer, gauged the perfect distance for corpse explosion, then stopped and summoned 100 skeleton warriors to the battlefield. The monsters were incredibly tough. Despite the power of his skeletons, their attacks weren't enough to put them down due to their high health pools. But the higher their health, the more he liked it, since he still had his corpse explosion skill, and with a single strike, Mo Yu wiped them all out, leaving everyone stunned by the overwhelming power of the necromancer. The two armies charged and clashed. After a moment of observation, Mo Yu spotted the loud-mouthed monster observing him from the sky and immediately used a combo of corpse explosion and soul flame to attack it. Its soul was slowly incinerated, leaving it unable to comprehend how such a broken class, a staple of any good hunter system manhwa, could even exist. Outside, the elders were shocked when the conflict seemed to have vanished. The abyssal demons were wounded and weakened. Bai Chen was having an existential crisis, wondering which overpowered contestant could have possibly injured those monsters. Meanwhile, inside, the monsters were losing control and flying into a rage along with their leader. Mo Yu, however, was thrilled that his corpse explosion skill had leveled up now with a range of 2 meters and 150% of a target's maximum health as damage. He finally realized that skills from scrolls needed to be used repeatedly before they could be upgraded. Everyone's jaws dropped as they spoke the name Lin Mo Yu, who dared to use those monsters for power leveling. The monsters tried to escape, but their only destination now was the afterlife, as Mo Yu had already activated his corpse explosion skill. After he annihilated all of them, the combat dimension returned to normal. After the storm comes the calm. Outside, someone noted with surprise that there were 0 casualties. Hearing this left Bai Chen utterly shocked. Everyone was then safely teleported out. The competition concluded, and all that remained was to wait for the judges to tally the scores and evaluate their performance throughout the trials. This evaluation was crucial regardless of the final scores. High scores mean nothing with poor conduct, so you're out. Everyone eagerly awaited the evaluation that Lin Mo Yu would receive. Bai Shen and the others reviewed Mo Yu's impressive performance within the magical space, but the way he calmly turned the tables was so impressive that even Bai Shen, the top-ranked player, was certain he would become a powerhouse in this hunter system. All those who fled in fear were failed, because if you lack courage, what business do you have on a battlefield? After deliberations, Mo Yu ranked first with 3,465 points and an excellent evaluation. When old Liu heard Lin Mo's name announced, he was ecstatic that he had become the top scorer. Xia Shui came to congratulate him, and seeing him smile, she thought this silly Lin looked quite handsome when he smiled. Second place went to Xia Shui, and everyone else also received an excellent rating except for the coward Wang Zihao. He received a poor evaluation despite his score being in the top 5. This guy, instead of being remorseful, angrily demanded to know where the fairness was. He was promptly expelled from the premises. Before the excitement could die down, another announcement came through declaring that Lin Mo Yu had officially become the national top scorer for this year's exam. Hearing those words made Principal Liu so overjoyed he burst into tears. Now he could brag for generations about his exceptional student. The other friends who placed in the top 5 also came to congratulate and thank Mo Yu for saving them. Lin Mo Yu went home to tell his late grandmother about his success and looked forward to the day he could reunite with his sister. 2 visitors appeared at his door. One was Principal Liu, while the other exuded an aura that made Mo Yu wary. It was none other than the esteemed Bai Shen himself. Bai Shen was quite impressed by Mo Yu's calm and cautious demeanor combined with his excellent reflexes. Mo Yu served them tea, and Principal Liu mentioned to Bai Shen that Mo Yu's older sister had also passed the entrance exam for Xiaojing Academy the year before. Seeing someone overcome such difficult circumstances to excel truly marked him as a great talent. Bai Shen, intrigued by the young necromancer, asked Mo Yu to summon his skeleton soldier for him to inspect. Upon review, the total of its 4 attributes was only 250, which surprised Mo Yu. He then revealed to them that he had awakened a unique talent, and his talent was the ability to level up all his skills, a power reminiscent of the one seen in solo leveling. Bai Shen explained he was there for 2 reasons. First, to deliver the reward from Xiaolin Academy to Mo Yu. Second, to invite him to a special trial in 2 days, an event exclusively for insiders. Mo Yu considered the offer for a moment before agreeing to this opportunity. Hearing his acceptance, Bai Shen was pleased and generously presented him with several rewards. Befitting the national top scorer, he received a beginner skill scroll, an intermediate skill scroll, and a credit card loaded with 100,000 points. The final reward was a one-time pass to enter the Divine Tower of Xia, and Bai Shen advised him to prepare thoroughly before using it. Once Mo Yu finished packing his things, Bai Shen teleported him to Xiaojing Academy. There, he led him to the dormitories and introduced him to the on-duty staff member. Seeing Mo Yu with Bai Shen, the staffer got nervous when he heard Mo Yu speaking so casually to the great man. The orange-haired staff member then began showing Mo Yu the available dormitory rooms at various price points. He advised Mo Yu that as a new student, saving points was the wisest course of action, but Mo Yu immediately decided to pick a single room priced at 1,000 points per month. The staffer thought he was being extravagant until he scanned the card and realized this was Mo Yu, a guy who had nothing but points to spare. In the distance from his new room, colorful flashes of light could be seen. It was other students practicing their skills late into the night. The next day, just as he finished meditating, his acquaintance Yi Yi knocked on his door. The tour of the Xiaojing Academy led them to the cafeteria where Mo Yu offered to pay with points, but Yi Yi advised against it. She explained that points are extremely scarce here, and while this young lady might be poor in points, she certainly isn't lacking in money. However, for someone with as many points as Mo Yu, spending a few was a mere drop in the bucket. Afterward, he even gifted the generous girl a core of the ghostly Star King as a first meeting present. Then Yi Yi led Mo Yu to the administration office. However, they couldn't find any information about his sister. Yi Yi speculated that she might have joined a specific academy, for example, the Academy of Light, where a student's information is kept completely confidential. After the tour with Mo Yu was over, Yi Yi took him to meet Sister Tao Zi, an elf knight and the team captain for the upcoming commissioned quest. Before he could even introduce himself, a guy named Ling Zhen, another team member, started picking a fight and trash-talking him. He arrogantly claimed that compared to his hidden dragon team, the national top scorer was nothing, even saying that all top scorers were basically trash. He just hoped Mo Yu wouldn't be dead weight this time, telling him to stay quiet and not drag the team down. Listening to his rambling, Mo Yu simply replied with 2 words, "Brain dead." The jerk heard this and immediately flew into a rage, wanting to fight, but Sister Tao Zi stopped him, so he backed down. It was a good thing too. Otherwise, Mo Yu might have made sure this guy wouldn't appear in future chapters. After that, Sister Tao Zi scheduled a meeting with Mo Yu for 9 o'clock the next morning to begin the trial. Then she subtly reminded Ling Zhen that Mo Yu was a big shot introduced by Bai Shen. Despite her words, the damn Ling Zhen remained arrogant and held a grudge against the provincial top scorer Mo Yu for taking a valuable slot in the hunter system from his younger brother. Yi Yi then took Mo Yu to buy medicinal herbs, mana potions, and a communicator, and she also friended him on the device. They agreed to meet again tomorrow. Back in his room preparing for the trial, Mo Yu used a beginner's scroll and obtained the Slowing Curse skill, which turned out to be an incredibly overpowered god-tier skill. Now his skills as a necromancer could be divided into summoning, attack, and curse types. The next morning, under the sparkling sun, Yi Yi called Mo Yu to invite him for breakfast. Before they headed to the trial together, the team members gathered and introduced their classes. Miao Yu, a level 20, Star Elder, Duan Gao, a level 20, Prophet, Ling Zhen, a level 21 sorcerer, Jiang Tao Tao, a level 23 elf knight, Lin Mo Yu with the unique hidden class necromancer at level 17, and finally Yi Yi, a level 19 shadow assassin. Tao Tao hoped that this time, everyone from both the Xiajing and Hidden Dragon Academies would unite. The trial's teleportation began, and everyone was sent to the Tower of the Fallen God in the sky, illuminated by a brilliant divine light. The group proceeded together to Mermaid Island. Everyone touched the quest stone and received the trial's mission. Enter the dungeon, slay the boss, and retrieve the Mermaid Stone. The dungeon only drops a maximum of 3 stones and only on Nightmare difficulty. The Mermaid's Tier dungeon is located in the center of the island. Sister Tao shared some additional information for those who didn't know. A Mermaid's Tier can be used to craft a special piece of equipment with a very powerful. However, the island is located within the territory of the Fallen God Empire, and only 3 Mermaid's Tiers drop per year. This high-stakes quest, reminiscent of a raid from solo leveling, means that besides their own empire, many neighboring countries are also vying for the item. Sister Tao warned everyone that no matter what they do, their lives are the top priority. Survival was the top priority, so everyone steeled themselves and received stat buffs from the priestess class before advancing. Upon entering Mermaid Island, Mo Yu noticed his stats had increased significantly, so he immediately summoned his skeleton soldiers to see if they were also boosted. The undead-type summons received no blessing from the priestess, and Mo Yu immediately realized it was likely due to his own unique talent. His talent was so sinister that it likely nullified the blessing, and seeing this, Ling Zhen's foul mouth started running again. His foul mouth began to run again, mocking Mo Yu's class abilities, but the moment the words left his lips, both the skeleton soldier and Mo Yu stared him down. The stare sent a chill down Ling's spine, making him feel as if he had just glimpsed death, and the group started moving deeper inside. They immediately encountered mermaid soldiers, and they coordinated using their class skills to defeat them with ease, but it was still too slow. If they ventured deeper and faced higher-level monsters, it was estimated their group would take up to 3 hours to reach the center of the island. Therefore, they decided to bypass the monsters, relying on Miao Yu's crowd control skills to clear a path for the team. 20 minutes later, other groups had already advanced far closer to the center, and now countless level 22 mermaid soldiers stood before Mo Yu's group. Their numbers were massive, and it would take over an hour to eliminate them all to proceed. But when the going gets tough, Mo Yu is there to handle it. Hearing that Mo Yu wanted to take the lead, Ling made another bitter remark, accusing him of hiding behind a woman's skirt. Mo Yu then used his skeleton soldiers to lure all the mermaid monsters away, clearing a path for everyone. Seeing that Mo Yu was actually useful, Ling snidely remarked why he hadn't done so from the beginning, which prompted Yi Yi to retort. She said that the jerk's personality was no different from a man in a dress, yet he still wouldn't shut up and turned to call Mo Yu useless. Meanwhile, the players from Country Y also arrived, and they had someone with a legendary grade class, a Shikigami summoner, who immediately summoned a god. He summoned an ancient spirit to block Mo Yu's group from ascending the mountain, but in response, Mo Yu, the powerful Tiki necromancer, summoned 2 skeletons and kited the monsters away. He opened a path for everyone stuck at the foot of the mountain, and all the players there profusely thanked Mo Yu for his heroic act. The summoner from Country Y was shocked that in just a few minutes, everyone from below had caught up to him, and the Country Y archers had also gotten into position. They prepared to unleash a rain of arrows to stop them, but life might be tough for others, not for Mo Yu's teammates. These arrows couldn't penetrate his skeleton soldiers, whose defense was on a whole other level, reminiscent of the shadows in solo leveling. But after the first volley, quite a few people they died from Country Y's arrow rain, and the survivors wanted to regroup with powerful mages, so Ling Zhen, knowing he was a highly valued mage, made his move. He went to the party leader and demanded to switch teams, saying, "It's either me or Mo Yu," thinking he could get Mo Yu kicked out. But to his surprise, he was the one told to get lost, and hearing the blunt dismissal from Sister Tao left Ling Zhen stunned. He thought that without him, the party would never be able to complete the trial, and the party leader wouldn't be able to join the Luminous Academy. If this expedition failed, she would lose her chance, but the team had Mo Yu now, and without a certain pompous jerk, things were better than ever. As he left, he spitefully said, "You'll all regret this," but his face was a mask of pure bitterness. Mo Yu then told everyone to enter the dungeon instance, and everyone else was confused except for Yi Yi, who had 100% faith in this great god. At the dungeon entrance, players from Country Y had set an ambush from all sides, blocking anyone from entering. Their whole group launched an all-out assault on Mo Yu's group, but within this brutal hunter system, he immediately summoned his skeleton soldiers, which completely blocked every single one of their attacks. Both allies and enemies were shocked by the overwhelming power of this summon, a true top-tier necromancer. Mo Yu walked to the gate and selected the nightmare difficulty. To enter the dungeon, the people outside tried to stop him, but it was too late. Everyone was encouraging each other to clear the instance. Suddenly, experience points started popping up, leaving everyone dumbfounded because Mo Yu's skeletons had one-shotted an elite enhanced monster in the nightmare-level dungeon without anyone else lifting a finger. Sister Tao watched Mo Yu, unable to hide her astonishment. She was hit with one surprise after another, just tagging along and chilling while passively gaining XP, while the two other support members were just zoning out and following behind. They didn't have to do a thing. After clearing all the mobs outside, they went deeper and encountered the dungeon's mini-boss, which looked incredibly strong. Sister Tao wanted to attack, but Mo Yu told her it wasn't necessary. He immediately cast a slowing curse, allowing his skeleton warriors to inflict damage on the boss. Even though this boss could inflict poison, Mo Yu's undead summons, which were practically a game-breaking cheat for a necromancer in this hunter system, were unaffected. They took no damage whatsoever. Just like that, they defeated the boss, collected the rewards, and the whole party was teleported to the next area. The party members now felt a bit bored since they were getting tons of XP without doing anything. Sister Tao ordered everyone to just follow closely behind Mo Yu. As they ventured deeper, a strong fishy smell filled the air. Inside there were over 180 merman monsters, and they were all the elite enhanced type. Who would be scared for Mo Yu? The more the better, as it was a perfect place for him to farm XP. He summoned his skeletons. The warriors charged forward to attack. He then told everyone to cover their ears before using corpse explosion to annihilate all the monsters, much to their astonishment. The grand palace doors swung open, revealing the merman queen, the final boss of this place, as she stepped out. The entire party was immediately hit by her charm spell. Only Mo Yu remained completely unfazed, perhaps because carnal desires were something he never cared for. For a normal party of 6, it would take at least an hour to defeat this formidable boss, but Mo Yu's actions were completely unpredictable to Sister Tao. She now felt as if a pack of wolves was surrounding and attacking a lion, and it was unclear who would rule the forest. The merman queen boss attacked instantly, destroying one skeleton. Sister Tao told her teammates to get ready to attack once Mo Yu's skeletons were no longer able to fight. Mo Yu used a slowing curse on the boss again, who then used a skill that wiped out the next 12 skeleton soldiers. Seeing the situation was no longer favorable, Sister Tao told everyone to attack. But Mo Yu then unleashed his full power, summoning the remaining 87 skeleton soldiers. This made everyone understand why Yi Yi had so much faith in this top scholar. Although the boss used all her strength to unleash her ultimate skill, her attack had no effect on Mo Yu due to his incredibly high mental resistance, a key stat in the hunter system. Plus, his skeletons were heartless and emotionless, so they were completely immune. Just like that, the merman queen was slaughtered with unbelievable ease, reminiscent of the power seen in Solo Leveling. Everyone was emotional upon receiving the merman's tear and completing the quest, which guaranteed them a spot in the Luminous Academy. They all praised Mo Yu and badmouthed the obnoxious Lang Zhen. Mo Yu then asked Yi Yi about the cooldown reset scroll, which made everyone suddenly remember something. The group walked out, stunning the crowd and the people from the Y Nation. As only half an hour had passed, the Y Nation group even mocked them, saying they must have just used an exit code. The people from the Empire tried to console them, saying it was good enough that they survived. As for Lang Zhen, he was up to his old tricks, hoping Mo Yu had died as planned. The party formed a defensive circle so Yi Yi and Mo Yu could use the cooldown reset scroll and re-enter the dungeon. Those who didn't know suspected they were walking into their deaths, but those who had witnessed his power knew this was just the beginning. Mo Yu alone was enough to completely clear this dungeon. After taking just a few shambling steps, they reached the first boss, which had previously taken 30 minutes, but now only took 5 minutes. They entered the palace, wiped out all the guards, and the final boss came out to play again, so that Mo Yu could bind and kill it once more. Thanks to him, Yi Yi also leveled up. They went in and came out in less than 10 minutes, making everyone question their own existence. Thinking they had come out without even fighting any monsters, the two of them then continued to use a cooldown reset scroll to enter again, making everyone think that with money, you really can do whatever you want. The two of them were like speedrunners, breaking their own records. On this third run, they cleared the dungeon in just 8 minutes and 58 seconds. After collecting all the mermaid's tears, the dungeon gate began to close. Only then did the Italian team realize that all 3 mermaids' tears had been taken. The people there saw that the Shenxia team had gotten the tears and went all out to help them. The Italian summoner wanted to have a proper all-out battle with the witch necromancer, Mo Yu. The guy immediately summoned his Shikigami, a half-human, half-snake creature with a giant axe that looked totally badass. Mo Yu also had his Bone Soldier attack, and with just a single blow it defeated the foreigner's Shikigami. It was so weak that Mo Yu actually felt embarrassed for the guy. When a Shikigami is killed, its master suffers from the backlash, since he couldn't win. As they say, of the 36 stratagems, fleeing is the best, but Mo Yu immediately sent his skeleton to chase after him. The audience watching trembled in fear, not knowing what his class was, that he could so easily one-shot the Shikigami of a legendary grade summoner. It was like something out of solo leveling. The foreigner began to suspect that Mo Yu had awakened a special talent and wanted to return to report it to his country. But his escape route was already ambushed from all sides by skeleton warriors. The entire group of foreigners panicked before the skeleton warriors in front of them and wanted to surrender. Meanwhile, their allies were having a good laugh at the foreigners' expense. Making a fuss now would be no different from offering themselves up on a silver platter. Mo Yu stood proudly listening to the flattering words from everyone present. The guy named Ling was fuming, thinking that if he hadn't been so delusional about his own power and acted so arrogantly earlier, he might have completed the trial. Instead of blaming his own foolishness, he blamed Mo Yu for causing everything. Truly, there's nothing more dangerous than a fool who doesn't know he's a fool. A fool who doesn't know he's a fool. With the trial completed, everyone was teleported back. Sister Tao chirped her thanks to Mo Yu for helping with this important mission. Seeing Mo Yu remain silent, Yi Yi answered for the cool stoic boy. Baishan then sent a private message summoning Mo Yu to the dean's office. He was very pleased with Mo Yu's performance during the trial, and the fact that he was humble, honest, and brave made him like the boy even more. Baishan explained just how important the goddess's tear from this mission was. Possessing it is related to the success rate of the second talent awakening at level 40. Items that can help with talent awakenings are incredibly rare, especially in this hunter system. Talents are super rare, and even though the mermaid's tear is low ranked, it is still extremely important, due to Mo Yu's excellent performance. In this trial, Baishan wanted to give him a precious gift so that he would be satisfied and continue to contribute. Mo Yu immediately wanted to ask about his sister, but all information was confidential because she was a student of the Divine Light Academy. Upon hearing this, Mo Yu realized that the local academies were all feeder schools for that main academy. Afterward, Baishan sent detailed information on how to join the Academy of Light to Mo Yu's communicator. Since that was just a casual question, Baishan wanted to give him something more. Another gift for him. Mo Yu immediately requested a cooldown amulet, a rare item not sold on the auction house. Baishan felt the current quest wasn't worthy of such a precious gift, so he assigned Mo Yu a new one. However, to accept this quest within the hunter system, Mo Yu had to reach level 20. Seeing his determined grinding spirit, he suggested Mo Yu visit the Academy Palace to level up. The moment he received the stone, Mo Yu hastily teleported away to begin his solo leveling grind immediately. Upon arrival, he was quite surprised by the opulence and the sheer number of talented individuals gathered there. He checked his messages and saw the requirements to join the Luminous Academy: reach level 30, clear the level 30 Frontline Abyss dungeon on Hell difficulty, and finally earn 1,000. An incredibly cute girl named Shu Han noticed Mo Yu was likely a newbie and approached him to offer a brief tour of the place. Knowing there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world, he asked for the price and was promptly told 100. Money really does make the world go round. The Dungeon Palace contained 2 dungeons below level 20, 18 dungeons from level 20 to 30, and 20 dungeons from level 30 to 40. Additionally, there were 2 large-scale dungeons for 40 or more people and 1 massive raid dungeon for over 100 people. Furthermore, setting a record for clearing a dungeon granted a handsome reward. The highest-paying quest in the Mission Center only offered 10 contribution points, with most giving just 2 or 3. Getting into the Luminous Academy clearly required diligent effort. Though points were hard to come by, Mo Yu was a man who relied on his connections. No sooner had he finished that thought, his account chimed with 50 contribution points, leaving the entire hall stunned by this absolutely unbelievable event. Mo Yu then selected the Mutated Jungle Dungeon, a place whose record hadn't been broken by any prodigy for the past 3 years. Choosing to level up alone on Nightmare difficulty made the crowd whisper, assuming he was just showing off. But the handsome and tactical Mo Yu was also incredibly smart, flipping the turtle boss onto its back to deliver a fatal blow. This guy doesn't waste any time. Outside the palace, bells began to ring, announcing a new record holder. Everyone was eager to see who this new superstar was. Even though it was a low-level dungeon, clearing it alone was considered impossible. Not only that, but he broke the record at twice the previous speed. Each new record like this only granted 5 contribution points. The high-level experts watching from outside began to believe that Mo Yu's earlier 50 contribution points weren't just a bluff after all. Since the other dungeon required level 18, Mo Yu went back to clear the previous dungeon one more time, emerging just half an hour later at level 18. His speed left everyone there stunned, and sure enough, he set another new record, and it wasn't even his fastest pace. Public opinion was now shifting, wondering if this Grandmaster, this powerful necromancer, could also break the record for the Spider's Nest dungeon. He desperately needed contribution points, so wherever there were points to be, had he when entering the Spider's Nest, a place enveloped in darkness. Mo Yu used flames to light the way, then as a skilled necromancer he summoned a skeleton to scout the area and assess the situation. The place was like a maze with many different paths, and every route was filled with monsters of all shapes and sizes. The paths were teeming with small spiders. Due to their sheer numbers, which quickly added up, this place was nothing short of a holy land for farming XP. Mo Yu couldn't recall his skeleton soldier to his summoning space because too many small spiders were clinging to it. Since they gave so much XP, he didn't want to waste the experience and decided to. It was covered in numerous small spiders, and since it awarded a lot of XP, he decided not to waste the experience. He divided his skeleton soldiers into groups of 10 to clear out all 108 caves here. 10 minutes later, he reached the end of the final cave and saw the Spider Queen, who had been getting swarmed. Now it was Mo Yu's turn to gang up on the spider with his 80-plus skeleton soldiers. Meanwhile, outside, everyone was still buzzing, wondering if Mo Yu could break the record. His friend outside was filled with admiration seeing Mo Yu calmly emerge after clearing the difficult dungeon alone. When he asked about the dungeon with the most XP in the area, his blonde friend suggested the large-scale dungeon, Tyrant's Desert, a level 25 instance. However, level 20s could enter since it allowed for a party of 40 people. Although the dungeon was tough, his ego was a bit inflated, so he immediately began to wonder. He pondered whether he could conquer it alone. For now, Mo Yu returned to the Spider Cave to continue clearing it and grinding levels. Elsewhere, the Academy's higher-ups were observing his solo leveling progress. Principal Hong Shan of Qianlong Academy was displeased that his own students couldn't hold a candle to this freshman. Baishan spoke with Old Man Meng about Mo Yu's bright future, mentioning a certain old master whose chosen protégés are always the very elite of humanity. Mo Yu's sister is one such person currently being nurtured by that old master with all his resources. Principal Qianlong even thought, that Mo Yu might one day become the sole honored one throughout heaven and earth, for whom taking on the Battle of Red Cliffs alone would be a trivial feat. Meanwhile, Mo Yu was casually grinding in the spider dungeon, certain that this run would not only level him up, but also shatter his personal record. Outside, the bell rang again, causing a commotion. Lang Zhen arrived as well, spouting bitter words to stir up drama involving Mo Yu. He claimed that Mo Yu only set the record through connections, but the other students immediately rushed to his defense. Mo Yu emerged looking sharp with his hair slicked back, having just set a new record of a mere 47 minutes. That jerk Lang, however, still couldn't stop running his mouth. The moment he saw Mo Yu, he started spouting nonsense again, but a single glare from Mo Yu made him tremble in fear. The best way to show contempt is to simply ignore someone who isn't on your level. So Mo Yu went back to grinding, completely ignoring the loudmouthed fool. After one more clear of the Spider's Nest dungeon, Mo Yu successfully reached level 20 and all his basic stats increased significantly. The number of skeleton soldiers he could summon as a hot necromancer increased to 120. All of his other skills also received a comprehensive level up. Most notably, he could now summon a silver rank skeleton soldier. Mo Yu tested it immediately and the summon instantly consumed 500 of his mana. But its stats were insanely powerful, on par with a dungeon boss. This new power within the hunter system made Mo Yu immediately realize that his own equipment was now outdated and he needed a major upgrade. When Mo Yu stepped outside, his die-hard fans surrounded him, showering him with endless praise. Going from level 17 to 20 in a single day left everyone speechless. Afterwards, he took all the equipment he had farmed in the dungeon to the auction house to earn some cash and buy better gear for himself. An employee led him to check out the high-end VIP items. After browsing around, although he saw some decent equipment, none of it was quite up to his standards. Then he spotted a weapon with an appraisal fee of 50,000 points. It was a scythe, part of the Death God set. It also possessed the skill Summon Heroic Spirit General. Mo Yu felt that his army of skeleton warriors needed a commander. He was very fond of this item and decided to seal the deal. The employee even thought he had misread the price until He only realized how simply the rich often dress when he swiped his card. Mo Yu also bought numerous skill scrolls hoping to find a new skill. Upon returning home, he used them and acquired a defensive skill called Bone Armor, which was not only incredibly powerful, but could also be cast on others. His skill set was now well-rounded with both offense and defense. Using the next scroll, Mo Yu could now summon skeleton mages. His undead army, a staple for any powerful necromancer, was no longer limited to close combat and could now attack from a distance. The next day, with his mana fully restored, Mo Yu went to find Bai Shen. Bai Shen was stunned by what Mo Yu told him. His leveling speed was even faster than his own in his youth, a rate of growth reminiscent of the famous solo leveling. He assigned Mo Yu a mission to enter the Tyrant Desert Dungeon and retrieve the Tyrant's heart for him within 3 days. If he succeeded, he would help Mo Yu find a high-level cooldown amulet, just as he had wished. This item was incredibly useful as high-level dungeons had cooldown timers for each entry that were measured in months. He also revealed that upon completion, he would show Mo Yu how to upgrade this very amulet to a whole new level. Without another word, Mo Yu accepted the mission. Bai Yu reminded him that the school's opening ceremony was in 3 days, hoping he would return in time. Old Meng also entered and figured the young man would likely attempt the raid alone. Speaking of the past, Bai Shen himself had tried it solo at level 3 and had to retreat in bitter defeat. But with his main character plot armor, this Lin Mo Yu was surely far stronger than the server's #1 player from back then. A crowd gathered around the dungeon entrance to watch the great Mo Yu challenge the desert dungeon. A 40-person team was nearby, and a blonde-haired girl among them was immediately starstruck by Mo Yu, admiring how he was handsome, talented, a brilliant strategist, and incredibly hardworking. Mo Yu shared that he was going in to retrieve the Tyrant's heart, which could be used to craft a powerful accessory, the Tyrant's necklace. This item only drops once every 2 years, and the last time it dropped was 2 years ago. A troop in golden armor arrogantly approached. They were from the Bailey Academy, aiming to break this dungeon's record. All 40 of them had prepared a great deal of expensive gold-grade equipment. Seeing that this group also intended to clear the dungeon, Mo Yu quickly stepped inside first. Everyone was saying that if someone could clear this massive dungeon alone, they would make history, trending at #1 for months. A white-haired man sneered at Mo Yu, thinking he was just putting on a show. Then he and his party entered as well. Upon entering the dungeon, the blinding sun was so intense it disoriented Mo Yu, making it hard to find his bearings. The record for this dungeon was a full 16 hours, so it was sure to be a grueling ordeal. Mo Yu proceeded slowly and cautiously, a smart move in any hunter system, summoning bone soldiers to scout the area. After sweeping the perimeter for a while, he finally found a monster. Even a small mob in this place had the same strength as a mini-boss from other dungeons. But Mo Yu's skeletons were on a whole new level now, having made a huge leap in power compared to just 2 or 3 days ago. From just one small bandit monster, the experience gained was already leagues above other dungeons. Mo Yu immediately equipped his bone armor, sensing that danger was always lurking nearby. He pressed forward cautiously, and after 2 hours, he spotted an oasis in this desolate wasteland. He felt that a calm place like this would surely attract a lot of monsters. And just as he predicted, the moment he had the thought, the scorpion guarding the area appeared. In the distance, a whole swarm of scorpions was heading his way, but he noticed some kind of glowing fruit on a tree, so he ordered his bone soldiers to retrieve it. It was a desert oasis fruit which had the ability to restore mana. Eating it would replenish his fighting spirit began to surge again. Now that his mana was full, this powerful necromancer was ready for any challenger. He began his summons. He summoned skeleton mages to train and level up their skills. Now Mo Yu would spam summons until the skeleton mages reached level 20, so they could evolve into the silver rank. After just chilling and eating fruit for 3 hours, his summoner skill finally patched. The skeleton summoning skill reached level 20. Now the skeleton mages were divided into 4 different elements, including water, fire, lightning, and wind. The real party was just officially beginning as the skeleton mages began to display their power, with spectacular combos clearing out the swarm of scorpions before them. Soon after, the scorpions called for backup, bringing 30 to 40 of their brethren to the fight. But he wasn't short on bony brothers himself. 70 skeleton mages and skeleton warriors appeared and were ready for battle. With a final corpse explosion, Mo Yu wiped them all out. Truly surviving long enough to become a legend is the name of the game in this hunter system. The monsters were cleared, and now Mo Yu would go find the area's boss, hoping to find the tyrant's heart as soon as possible so he could get back home for a meal. While on the move, he sensed an approaching storm, and it was a beast tide. Mo Yu immediately activated his armor and brandished his weapon for battle. He performed a spectacular flip and landed on the back of an ant to ride along with them. They led him to the Ant Queen's lair. In the sky, flying ants were also moving towards this location. Seeing that these creatures attacked without any preamble, he decided to show them who the true master of this desert was. He summoned his wind element skeleton mages and used Hurricane Fist, instantly wiping out a swarm before him. He then summoned all his skeleton warriors and commanded them to find the Ant Queen's nest. The flying ants in the sky were being utterly decimated by the skeleton mages. After a short while of letting his skeleton soldiers advance, Mo Yu finally spotted the Ant Queen's lair. Two formidable armies began to face each other. A colossal Ant Queen stood before him, but for a necromancer of his caliber, it wasn't very impressive. The Ant Queen began to initiate the attack. Mo Yu formulated a strategy. The mages would attack from a distance to draw away the Ant Royal Guards, while the melee warriors would advance to strike. It's senseless. Very quickly, everything was annihilated, forcing the Ant Queen to curl into a ball and summon its ant army. But who was scared? For Mo Yu, the more the merrier, a sentiment familiar to anyone who's seen solo leveling. With a single corpse explosion, he wiped out all the remaining soldiers along with the Ant Queen, reaping generous rewards. His time was valuable, so he needed to resolve things quickly and find the boss. After 2 hours of diligent effort, Mo Yu finally arrived at the gate of the final boss, the Tyrant Lion, the supreme ruler of this dungeon. The monsters here possessed attributes far stronger than the flying ants and ant soldiers from the lair. This pride of lions even employed advanced tactics and strategic thinking, but when it came to formations and commanding an army, Mo Yu was also an expert. He began to use his scythe to summon the heroic spirit general. Mo Yu's warriors also began to be summoned. Answering the call of the heroic spirit general, they immediately formed ranks and charged forward to attack with fire, water, and lightning. All 49 different techniques were unleashed upon these lions, but their corpses fell inside the fortress, so Mo Yu could not use corpse explosion. Half of the mages began to attack the fortress, but it seemed to have no effect whatsoever. Mo Yu thought for a moment, then decided to order his skeleton soldiers to throw the lions' corpses and pile them against the gate. He then activated corpse explosion and shattered the gate with a clever trick that only he could pull off. Inside, the tyrant lion sat upon its throne with its hand resting on its chin, at first posing like a movie star, but Mo Yu was in a hurry, and the moment it leaped from its throne, he took it down. 2 silver-rank skeleton soldiers and the mages began unleashing their attacks on the boss, who wielded 2 axes, spun in a circle, and swept them away. It wiped out 24 skeleton soldiers. Next, Mo Yu used chains to bind it, but it let out a roar that destroyed 14 of his skeleton soldiers. His bone armor was shattered at the same time. The alpha lion then leaped, intending to end this little game, but unfortunately for it, Mo Yu's flames interrupted the boss's skill casting, causing it to plummet to the ground. He immediately began an all-out assault. With so many attacking one target, the outcome was inevitable. Mo Yu relentlessly spammed his soul flame skill, unleashing countless combos. Alongside his skeleton mages and warriors, it took a full 20 minutes to finally defeat the Tyrant Lion. After defeating this boss, Mo Yu leveled up to 21. His skills and stats all increased, including his summoning skill, a core ability for any powerful necromancer. His skeleton mage skill also rose to match his new level. The deadline Mo Yu set for himself was to grind his remaining skills to their maximum level. A bell tolled 6 times, and outside everyone was stunned. This bell announced that someone had just broken a major record. The record for a large-scale dungeon. No one knew who it could be. A guy named Bailey Sheng, the nephew of the headmaster of Bailey Academy, arrogantly claimed it must have been his team from Bailey Academy that set the new record. When someone mentioned the legendary player Mo Yu, he scoffed, saying that guy wasn't in the same league as his academy. A pink-haired guy came over and whispered Mo Yu's profile details into his ear. He burst out laughing with utter disdain when he heard it. He heard that Mo Yu attempted a 40-person dungeon all by himself, a feat worthy of the name solo leveling. But Mo Yu's fans outside fiercely defended their idol. "What's wrong with one person going solo? What are you laughing at?" The announcement board then lit up, showing that the tyrant's heart had dropped. To obtain it, one had to slay the tyrant boss in under 1 hour. Everyone was now skeptical, because even for a top-tier player, that was nearly impossible. The buck-toothed guy Bailey Sheng made a hideous face and arrogantly shouted that Bailey Academy had definitely secured the boss drop. But then the leaderboard updated, displaying the full name Lin Mo Yu with a clear time of 14 hours, 1 minute and 43 seconds. The color drained from Bailey Sheng's face while the fans erupted. One fan shouted the great god Mo Yu's name. The arrogant guy tried to start a conversation, but Mo Yu completely ignored him and walked away. Everyone who witnessed this legendary display from Boss Lin couldn't stop praising him, showering him with words of admiration. Mo Yu called Bai Chen and told him he had obtained the tyrant's heart, leaving the man utterly speechless. A message arrived from the Hunter system, notifying him that he had received 5,000 points and 30 contribution points for breaking the dungeon record. Bai Chen suddenly appeared and teleported him to meet with Mr. Meng. Mo Yu presented his prize and mentioned his clear time of just 14 hours, which left the two senior figures staring at each other in stunned silence. Afterward, Bai Chen gifted him a cooldown reducing amulet. Bai Chen then suggested a way for him to quickly earn more contribution points, taking on missions on the battlefield. He told Mo Yu he would take him there after the school's opening ceremony. Since Mo Yu was so far beyond everyone else's level, Bai Chen decided to have him train in a place more suited to his power. However, Old Meng pointed out that Bai Chen had forgotten to tell Mo Yu a crucial piece of information about the battlefield. The enemies of the human race were also there. After many long days of exploration, Mo Yu finally got a comfortable place to rest. The members of Li Bai Academy returned expecting to be praised by the world, but to their surprise they were only met with ridicule. Looking at the prestigious golden leaderboard and seeing only one person manage to clear it, he became furious, claiming that person must have been hacking the Hunter system. He demanded everyone to vote to kick him. Meanwhile, the public continued to gossip about Li Bai Academy. A new day dawned for Mo Yu. He woke up with his spiritual energy fully restored and wanted to head back to the instance dungeon to continue grinding and max out his skills, much like in solo leveling. A skinny guy who looked like an addict approached him saying that Senior Bai Li Sheng was looking for him and requested that he come along. But Mo Yu just thought, "Who the hell are you to order me around?" He nonchalantly put his hands in his pockets and walked away. "If he wants to see me, he can come find me himself. Otherwise, get lost." Mo Yu was currently deep in thought as a single dungeon run cost 2 contribution points. Seeing this, the people there asked Miss Shuhan to put in a good word for them, hoping he would carry them through a dungeon run. They offered to pay with contribution points. Everyone pleaded with her, hoping to overcome this 80-second trial so they could finally enroll in another academy. Meanwhile, when the insufferable senior learned that Mo Yu wouldn't come to see him, he got an attitude and decided to go teach him a lesson. Everyone at the academy dungeon crowded around, begging Mo Yu to take them along and offering to pay 1,000 contribution points for the carry, for a single run. Some people were stuck unable to complete the quest, so despite being high level, they still couldn't enroll. Everyone unanimously agreed they wouldn't compete for items or experience. They just wanted Mo Yu to help them complete the quest. Mo Yu's condition was simple. If they found a tyrant fruit in the desert, they were not to compete with him for it. Everyone readily agreed as the fruit was incredibly rare and not something one could find easily. As they say, money talks and paying up front is the wisest move. Mo Yu decided he would carry 39 people at a time. Everyone wanted a spot, making the hall incredibly noisy. Miss Han had to shout at the crowd to get them to calm down. They finally formed a civilized and orderly line. Mo Yu realized his senior had helped him out quite a bit, so he knew to return the favor, telling her to just give him a call if she ever needed anything. Everyone entered the dungeon ready to follow Mo Yu's commands, obediently. The legendary necromancer then summoned his skeleton army, causing everyone to recoil in fear and awe at their terrifying and cool appearance. The lesser monsters were annihilated in an instant, leaving everyone speechless. But the only thing Mo Yu cared about was the experience points, at which were being split too many ways. However, the trade-off was money and lots of it. Mo Yu began to aggro the mobs. As for the recovery fruit, he couldn't find any this time. Time was money, so he wanted to finish off these mobs quickly, get to the boss and earn his pay. The nearby mobs were nearly all wiped out by Mo Yu's corpse explosion. It had only been 3 hours. And everyone was stunned to be carried by such a pro. Now he was going to fight the ant boss alone and told everyone else to wait. After 20 minutes of waiting, they got bored and decided to pull a few mobs to blow off some steam. 2 minutes later, a swarm of scorpions charged, all towards their position. The scorpions' attacks were incredibly powerful. Even with a healer, the recovery spells barely made a difference. They fought for 30 or 40 exchanges, but it felt like they were just scratching the monster's hide. The people in the back also rushed forward to help, but it wasn't until 5 minutes, and later, thanks to everyone's combined effort, that they finally managed to kill one of the lesser monsters. There was still another one, but most of the players were exhausted. The party members were completely exhausted. Just as the scorpion charged them, a skeleton warrior befitting a powerful necromancer appeared and delivered a one-hit kill. It sliced the scorpion cleanly in half. Fortunately, Mo Yu, whose power was on another level, almost like something out of saw solo leveling, had anticipated this, and sent one of his summons to rescue them just in time. The experience points began to explode, making them feel the situation was absurdly overpowered, but one guy still doubted Moyu's skill. He claimed that the Ant Queen was incredibly difficult to deal with, that when it curled up, it was basically immortal. The words had barely left his mouth when the entire group was left speechless. They could only gape as the Ant Queen was annihilated. Moyu turned back and told everyone to get ready for the final boss, but they should stay back and watch. They were to keep their distance to avoid getting in his way. In the distance was an army of monsters that made everyone nervous, but for Moyu it was nothing. He wiped out the Tyrant Lion clan with a single attack. Soon after, the boss itself appeared, causing a massive tremor. Everyone wondered aloud, just how long would it take for this god-tier player to defeat it? The two finally met, but our hero was in a bit of a hurry. He summoned 80 to 90 minions from his powerful hunter system to overwhelm the unfortunate boss. The party outside barely had a moment to relax before the world boss was defeated. Tears of joy streamed down their faces because after all these years, the dungeon quest was finally completed. Everyone cheered ecstatically, thanking the great god Lin and paying him the promised reward. Meanwhile, a servant of that Bailey guy had infiltrated the group. He joined Moyu's dungeon party with the sole purpose of observing his true power. The next platoon began to follow Moyu. This time luck was on their side as the recovery fruit had reappeared, so Moyu took the opportunity to max out his remaining skills. The followers just had to lie back, relax, and collect experience points. Moyu handled all the difficult parts. Paying 1,000 points to witness the master's textbook perfect monster clearing maneuvers was worth every penny. In just 7 hours, Moyu swiftly led the group to the final boss. They caught a glimpse of the boss's intimidating shadow. But soon enough, Moyu sent it to the afterlife, leaving behind the joyous cheers of the others who had now completed the mission. The spy who witnessed Moyu clear the dungeon was truly terrified by his overwhelming power. He returned to report to his master. That scoundrel Li heard the report and casually remarked that Moyu's power had its limits, claiming he already knew how to counter him. He called for Ling Chun, ordering him to find a way to settle this grudge and make Moyu pay for the humiliation he caused. At that moment, Xie Shui also arrived at the dormitory to prepare for the school's opening ceremony.